Representative Jim Jordan is finding himself taking a little bit of heat from the right. Oh, interesting. Now, according to the editorial page of Newsmax, a very conservative publication, they have put Jim Jordan on blast for opposing a new antitrust bill against big tech. Now, CNBC reports that this bill, which passed the House on a bipartisan vote, would increase the fees that businesses pay to federal agencies when a large merger deal requires government review. So, trying to make these big companies, like for example Disney, to have to pay for a review and maybe make them think, this might not be worth it to go and gobble up all these, IPs and these industries, this all that stuff. Maybe I shouldn't make a giant monopoly. Now, other reforms included in the bill passed by the House are requiring merging companies to disclose to federal agencies subsidies by foreign adversaries. Again, this from CNBC, like Chinese and Russian entities, and giving state attorneys general more control over which court will hear antitrust cases. The bill is actually part of another of a sweeping package of antitrust legislation known as the Innovation and Choice Online Act. This is actually something that is very bipartisan, really bipartisan, because it turns out both members of the left and members of the far right and right wing don't like monopolies. Yeah, I know, weird, right? But no, we all agree on this. So this is good. And so our representatives should obviously, if they do actually represent us, should support antitrust legislation. Oh, but it turns out no, because most Republicans voted against it. Now, again, part of this legislation would also prevent large tech platforms like Amazon, Apple, and Google from favoring their own products over others that rely on their marketplaces, giving them, of course, an advantage. So Google, for example, if this passed, would not be able to unfairly show its own local search results over that of a rival like Yelp. And Amazon couldn't simply choose to rank its first-party products over competitors, which would actually go at least somewhat to create some competition and some fairness in the market. If you're a Republican, aren't you supposed to be in favor of that? But Jim Jordan, not in favor of it. Jim Jordan apparently whipped Republican votes against the bill, although 39 Republicans did end up voting with most House Democrats in favor of this package. So credit to them, but I'm going to give you some important names. Before I do that, remember, the United States, we need to break up some of these tech monopolies that do actually have too much power. Too much lobbying power, too much money in politics, too much deregulation. No, we actually do need to regulate some of these tech monopolies. But again, Republicans like Jim Jordan were saying this stuff, well, break up big tech. But ultimately, they actually just don't believe it at all. They don't believe the things that they're saying. So now here's the Newsmax article, the editorial board, that is actually calling him out. I'm going to read some of it. Quote, Newsmax was shocked that Jordan, a strong conservative, would join with Google, Facebook, Twitter, and other big tech giants in opposing these relatively mild antitrust measures. There it is, Newsmax saying something I agree with. They are mild. It's not actually going to break up Amazon, Google, and Facebook or Meta. They're just going to put some mild regulations on it. That's fine. We should go further because it is mild. Great. Now, they also note that the bills enjoy strong support from conservative leaders, think tanks, and media. They completely leave out the fact that there's a lot of progressives that support it. AOC, for example, she voted in favor of this. Ilhan Omar. Again, I believe just about every Democrat in the House voted for this because it's a good bill. Wonderful. Now, who didn't vote for it? Now, I said 39 Republicans did vote in favor of it, and I'm honestly shocked it was that many. But what about, the people that have been making the most noise about big tech? Like Lauren Boebert, like Marjorie Greene. How'd they vote? Oh, looks like they voted against it. Oops. They did. They said, "Oh, monopolies, great. Yeah, no, let's not, make sure to regulate these and make it so that these companies don't continue to gobble up everyone else and corner the market." No, they love monopolies. They love big tech. Again, the ones that are belly aching the most about how, oh, big tech's bad, it's too big, we need to break them up, just voted to protect them. It's almost as if they're hypocrites, right? Shocking. But there's more. Newsmax also writes of Jim Jordan specifically, all of this feels like a clever way of saying Jim Jordan won't put mild restrictions on big tech. Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. Jim Jordan is saying, "Oh, I didn't have anything to do with, big tech. No, it's just giving more money to the Biden DOJ, blah, blah, blah." No. Jim Jordan refuses to put tiny restrictions on these tech companies. Newsmax also writes, so who cares if the Democrats support it if it's a good bill? And it's true. They say the bills don't address censorship, but why not take small steps to limit big tech now and address censorship in the next Congress? Of course, these measures need funding, and the GOP will have oversight of that funding soon. As for the Jordan plan to stop big tech, we'd love to see that next year when Republicans take control of Congress. So, look, I got news for you. Jim Jordan's not going to do a damn thing about big tech monopolies because, again, he loves them. They all do. They love corporations. They love monopolies, but they continue. Remember, these antitrust bills are supported by the Conservative Heritage Foundation and many conservatives, including Utah Senator Mike Lee, Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton, and Florida Representatives Byron Donalds and Matt Gaetz. Byron Donalds and Matt Gaetz voted against the bill. What a weird way to show that you're in favor of a bill by voting against it. Weird. Now, finally, they wrote, big tech has had their foot on the necks of conservative media. We're not buying catchy slogans from Jim Jordan or anyone else. We expect Congress and House Republicans to back limitations on big tech and their monopolies. And please note, if you side with big tech, you won't have our vote. Look, you know what's bizarre about this? Not the fact that I agree with at least some of the substantive critiques of, big tech firms. Again, your Metas, your Alphabet, Google, whatever, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. And, calling out Jim Jordan's, I think that's great. But this article, they have to really twist themselves into a pretzel to make a case without referencing how this has massive bipartisan support among voters. Voters don't like to see these monopolies. Who cares if the other side supports it if it's a good bill? No, 100%. I agree. I agree 100%. If Republicans came out today, for example, and said, we're going to do a bill that does 100% renewable energy by 2030, I'd support it. I'd be like, whoa! I'd have to read the fine print to see if they didn't sneak, like, in exchange, we're going to do full fascism. But if it's just as straight something like, I don't know, let's do more renewable energy, yeah, I'd be in favor of that. And I would advocate, yes, the Republicans are correct in this bill. Let's support it. But of course, that's not going to happen because they for obvious reasons, okay, they're in the pockets of big oil. But look, the whole point is, yes, progressives would back it. I'd be in favor of it. I'm not playing these partisan games, right? Now, would Democrats vote against it? Well, that's a question. I mean, Joe Manchin, yes, would. Henry Cuellar, of course, he'd vote against renewable energy. He already has. So-called good Democrat backed by Nancy Pelosi, right? Remember, pushed to get Henry Cuellar to win a primary against an actual progressive. Henry Cuellar, who's anti-choice, as well as pro-fossil fuels, and again, Joe Manchin, who's a literal coal baron. But anyway, good legislation is good legislation, and I would hope that, yes, if Republicans supported or put up good legislation, the Democrats would be in favor of it. That does not happen, though. and it's very, very rare. But in this case, you can see that Democrats put up a good piece of legislation, and Republicans, most of them said no, even though it is something on a topic that they agree with or say they agree with. But anyway, the conservative Claremont Institute's American Mind also asked if Jordan's real goal here is to, quote, defund the antitrust police. Now, the answer to that question is, of course, yes, because that's what Republicans do. They don't, defund like police that police you. No. They massively overfund that and militarize it, make sure that they have all the weapons and toys they could ever imagine. But when it comes to police that would actually go after corporations and hold them accountable and make sure they're not screwing over consumers, well, those are the police that Republicans love to defund. So yes, that's actually what they're doing, because Republicans love big corporations and will always vote in favor of big business. That's the whole point of the Republican Party, to funnel money to the rich and corporations. So now Newsmax, where they end up tying themselves in pretzels over this, is the fact that the Republican Party, their actions don't match their rhetoric. Oh, we hate big tech. They're crushing competition. They're censoring us. So then let's deregulate them and allow them to become unstoppable juggernauts through acquisition after acquisition. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. Because they don't make any sense. It's a dumb idea. They're not very smart. But look, if you use this as nothing more than a campaign slogan, well, then I guess it is smart, because you're going to confuse your own voters who are easily confused. And that's the meat of the issue, right? These Republicans that voted against this never meant a damn word of what they said against big corporations. They love big corporations. Ultimately, it's who they work for. They break up big tech, well, that might actually spur the government into enforcing more antitrust measures. I know if they actually have antitrust measures and use them, they might want to use it more in other sectors, for example, like media. And I know of at least one big company, although I think all of them are the same way, that would rain hell on anyone who dared try to break up these monopolies. They don't care about big tech. In reality, their entire crusade against tech companies is just based on the fact that they can no longer get away with saying some of the most hateful, horrific things, racist things against people online. And all they want is the freedom to say the N-word without getting banned.